What's up, guys? This is Blank Boy, and today we're talking about distilled Voltology. So first off, what is distilled Voltology? How does it differ from cognitive types' entire Voltology code? Really, all we mean by distilled is just looking at the energetics, right? With the entire Voltology code of what once was 110 signals. I think it's been narrowed down a bit since. But you've got some for J leads, some for P leads, some for different leading energetics, some for different function axes. We're just looking at energetics with distilled Voltology. And right, everyone does give off at least a little of each energetic signal. And that's really all we're doing when we're saying we're distilling it. Just looking at energetics. There are a few changes that exist that I'll mention, but it's essentially just that. So we're coming from an assumption that people exist on one function axis or the other, and whether or not that's a fair assumption to make, we can talk about later. But once we know that someone has a given set of function axes, we can just look at how their energetics interact with each other, how they interact in sequence and in parallel. If Voltology really is the window into the algorithm of consciousness, right? That's the subtitle of Auburn's first book. Why not read the granular signals like an algorithm, like the steps of an algorithm? This granular reading ends up being about 3.5 signals per second, give or take. Of course, some people are slower than others, some moments, some people might just be slower than other moments. So what are the actual distilled Voltology signals, and which ones are different from the cognitive type Voltology code? Well, JE signals don't really differ at all. There's forward gesturing, also known as projecting hands. There's unbroken articulation or clear and concise articulation. There's head pushes, head shakes, and head nods. And then there's shoulder shrugs. For PE, there's body swaying, there's alert perk ups, there's bottom up bubbling, there's toggling eyes, and lateral gesturing, this sort of thing, as opposed to that projecting forward facing gesturing.
First of the PI signals is diagonal drifting, and what you'll see is something like this. Then you have zone outs, and there's two types of zone outs. There's an impression zone, and then there's an inner object zone. So one looks like it's staring at an object. The other looks like it's staring into nothingness. Then we have scowling, which would be this. And then this is a signal that is an Axis 12 original signal. It's clipping in awe. So this was something I noticed. It's basically an interfering signal with PI clipping off JE. And so what that means is someone will be in the middle of the conversation and they'll be like, they completely lose their. This is also a really good differentiating signal between PI and JI, which are the hardest to tell apart. So JI, we have disengaging eyes with maintained rigidity. Then we have halting or stuttering. So what that might be is like, it's almost like JI is kind of going like this to JE articulation, Then we have meticulous hands. So what you'll see with this is sometimes it's like this sort of thing. Sometimes it's like this sort of thing. Sometimes it's like this sort of thing. These would all qualify under meticulous hands. And then we have a JI locking, which is an Axis 12 original signal as well too. You'll notice that PE will toggle and it will lock. It'll lock at 12 o'clock 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or 9 o'clock. Seems to be those specific points it locks at, where PI zones in more this realm. I like to think of it this way. Or can I get this even? You form an X, that's about where PI zones. And if you form a cross, that's more like where JI locks or disengages to. Because the locking is basically a disengaging signal, essentially. It's just a different type of disengagement, because it's not really fully disengaged, because it's still maintaining PE attention. So differentiating PI versus JI, I had a very difficult time doing this for a long time. So the way that I've learned to get around this issue, when someone's in a true zone out, it doesn't matter if it's the object impression zone of SI or the inner object zone of NI, the mouth will remain open because it's essentially kind of attached to that sort of clipping or awe of JE. So when it's a true signal, the mouth will remain laxed and sort of open. With JI, if you're confused about JI, and say if you're looking at extroverted perception, because extroverted perception can lock on a target too. But if that's the case, JI would be behind it. So JI would be in reflection. So it only makes sense that J signals are more face-centric. So tight lips are JI. So you'll notice when someone goes like this, that's all JI.
So we can talk about how we process the data once it's collected in a later video. Here I'm just talking about sort of the data collection process itself, what the distilled Voltology code looks like. But let's actually see what these signals look like.
Had occurred in real life that I throw up, and while I'm crying so much, I'm literally like gagging into the toilet, which is hilarious. Whenever it happens, I'm like completely reeling in it. But
in bad lighting or bad angles or all those things, and I wanted to give you another example for your gifts, because I know that they're going to start getting posted around more often now. And I just wanted to do a little...
Z niczego stworzyć pewien rodzaj wypowiedzi, który mógłby zostać przyjęty jako coś wartościowego. I tak, i